Today, I'm covering a combination of topics, as they both overlap in one specific thing: a Sonic Heroes Remake. And keyword remake, as we have two different sources aligning on that aspect, and it was at the time being slated for 2025, although that could have very possibly changed since then, but as of our current knowledge, it's still slated for release this year. And to make it better, this leak initially came from Midori Ryan, before he left the internet when the world needed him the most, like he was 24% of dads in the US, and I've mentioned it a lot as it's still true. But Ryan Dory has to this day never been wrong on any of his leaks, ever. But he did lie about being a girl. And if this info couldn't get more interesting, this remake is also mentioned in a 5-year plan for all Sonic titles that extends to past this. And since this particular leak was posted 3 years ago, and it being a 5-year plan means there's also the releases for 2026 in here, as well as 2025. And it's funny to see the reactions in the comments to this, since at this time, 3 years ago, everyone was commenting going, "OM freaking G, this is so clearly fake." But if you sort by new, it's everyone now going, "Wait, we're 3 years in and all of this is accurate." So it's nearly impossible that this isn't legit, or at the very least, incredibly well sourced, because both of these sources have nailed basically everything so far, and it would be hard to be this right unless you were psychic or something. So without further ado, let's get into it, covering a combination of stories today. So this video is going to be epic. So help spread it by dropping a like and sub if you want more of the latest Raccoon Sonic news bangers, which I guess is what these are. So to get to the origins of this whole Sonic Heroes Remake leak, plus the most reliable leaker of the whole story, it all starts with Midori, aka Ryan, who posted about the Sonic Heroes Remake. But what's not as well known is that it was more recently also followed up by Ryan Dory's friend and leaker associate, Sonicas0, who, if you aren't aware of, is someone who posted a bunch of Sonic Movie 3 stuff before release, as well as some Sonic at Shadow Generation stuff. So they are also incredibly reliable. And I personally have saved archives of all these leaks we're about to cover, since as of now, my copies are the only remains of any of this, because most of it has been taken down or their accounts have gotten deleted, so it's almost all gone, including the Sonic Cast leaker. But not only was their account deleted like Ryan Dory, but rather they, for whatever reason, have been permanently suspended on Twitter. And while the reason isn't fully known why they are, it's a safe assumption that it's from all the DMCA claims they were getting from both Paramount and Sega, since they did post a bunch of the Sonic Movie 3 leaks, which these DMCA takedowns are the same reason everyone predicts as to why Ryan Dory disappeared and deleted his other Twitter, which I also want to quickly mention as a warning. But since Midori deactivated for over a month, someone grabbed his which you can tell by the follower count that this clearly wasn't his original account restored. So ignore everything posted there currently, as it's all super obviously fake engagement bait. But that's just the PSA, since everyone keeps telling me to cover those leaks, but they aren't even written like Ryan Dory, and the account's clearly not his, so I'm not going to pretend like it's real when it's obviously fake. But what's not fake is what the real Ryan and Sonic Cast posted about the remake. And I'll read the Sonic Cast post first, because theirs covers a bit of both perspectives. And they write, "Also, the SHR title has been under construction since 2023, and its release date is autumn 2025. There is a possibility of delay. This leak is about a friend from Midori. Also, I'm completely sure of my word, and SHR is under construction. This is not a prediction, guess, or anything else. I don't care if you believe or not, but it will happen." Which, to give credit, they since have had accurate Sonic X Shadow and Sonic Movie 3 leaks, so I do believe them when they say this will happen. But what makes it more interesting is how it ties back into what Midori wrote, since Sonic Cast post was a follow-up from years earlier, when on the original Midori account, Ryan wrote, "The Sonic Heroes Remake is being considered, but I do not think the original source is correct about it being released in 2026 or 2027, which he seems to have been correct on if it does indeed release in 2025, as well as him also writing in response to a user, which reads, "Sega Group wants to move most franchises to UE5, but other engines will still be used on a case-by-case basis. The upcoming Sega IP remakes will be in UE5, including Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio." And this is interesting because while Midori didn't mention anything specifically Sonic related in terms of Sega moving to Unreal Engine, Sonic Cast in more recent times wrote in response to a user asking about the Sonic Heroes Remake, writing, "Is this made in Hedgehog Engine 2 or Unreal Engine 4/5? And Sonic Cast responds, "Unreal Engine 5. Something that I'm interested in seeing, because I've seen some of the craziest and most beautiful games in Unreal, if you utilize its power and optimize it well. So to see a Sonic title where the water looks lifelike, there's a grass that uses nanite so it can be everywhere and still flow realistically, combined with something like optional ray tracing, be borderline cinematic, and an instant day one purchase for me, not even thinking for a second about it." Now this next part originally comes from 4chan, which normally I would instantly dismiss as fake. However, considering the Sonic Frontiers leak that was completely accurate came from there, and since we're 3 years into the 5-year plan, you can now literally see where it aligns scenes, and there's a lot to take in from this. So it reads, you all know the drill. Take the following with a massive grain of salt. So I have a friend who holds a high position in a company that's looking to potentially collaborate with Sega for a Sonic-related project. I don't know exactly what this project is, but apparently Sega has a 5-year plan for the Sonic series, and they've been detailing this plan behind the scenes to potential collaborators and top investors. The goal of this 5-year plan is to once again cement Sonic as a AAA franchise in the gaming industry, and here's the basic outline. 2022, release of second Sonic movie, release of Sonic Prime on Netflix, and release of Sonic Frontiers game. In 2023, release of new 2D game currently being developed by B-Team, release of Sonic the Hedgehog live-action series on Paramount+, DLC for Sonic Frontiers, renew Sonic Prime for second season, and Mario and Sonic Paris 2024 game. In 2024, release of third Sonic movie, new traditional 3D Sonic game, and a spin-off game by Outside Studio. In 2025 to 2026, Sonic 35th Anniversary Celebration and Sonic Adventure Remakes. In 2027, Sonic Adventure 3, which is a lot to take in, and to not only have either a Sonic Heroes Remake or Adventure Remake, but also Sonic Adventure 3 is something I'm very excited to see. And while Adventure 3 may seem hard to believe with just how long it's been, you also have to consider that Kishimoto has specifically made tweets saying he wants the next game to be in the adventure format, so the likelihood of us getting a new Sonic Adventure title in 2027 is something that I very well could see, and I'm super excited to cover once info of that comes out. Now, the same leak continues with a few related details I'm aware of. Sega expects Sonic Frontiers to do extremely well, both financially and critically, and they are well aware that Sonic Forces sucked, but consider it a success because it sold well. They knew the game was going to be as bad as it was, just quickly put together to recover from the loss of the Sonic boom, with no intentions of the game actually being good, and it worked! Sega expects Frontiers to be the best-selling and highest-rated Sonic game in a long time, becoming an evergreen title. Paramount is currently in talks with Sega to approve the development of a tie-in game for the third movie, but Sega, however, is reluctant to agree to the deal because they believe it will interfere with their Adventure Remakes project, as the third movie will have a very similar storyline to SA2. Expect the Adventure Remakes to be pushed back if Paramount somehow convinces Sega to go through with it. Which, personal note, considering this leak was quite a while before Sonic Movie 2, just them knowing that Sonic Movie 3 has a lot of storyline ties to Sonic Adventure 2 adds a bunch of credibility to this leak. Now, in a more recent post going over what was accurate and what wasn't, as the previous one I just read is a summary of the original post I found on Reddit, says 4chan has unfortunately been obliterated to dust, and apparently nobody made archives of a lot of these posts, so this is all we have that remains. In the post going over how legitimate the original is, with a more in-depth recap, reads, that 3-year-old Sonic the Hedgehog leak might have been onto something. I'm not sure if posts like these are allowed on here. Posts analyzing 3-year-old leaks, I mean. But I noticed the other day that a certain Sonic the Hedgehog leak from 4chan that was reposted to this very sub 3 years ago might have had more credibility than first thought. Now, for anyone who doesn't remember, which is probably most of you, I'm referencing this leak. Now, I understand that since it's from 4chan, most people wrote it off as false, and probably some bored fans' wish list they were passing off as a leak. However, closer looks at the leak actually show that most of it is true. The leak is of Sega's 5-year plan from 2022 to 2027. What's interesting is that before 2025 to 2027, there are 11 predictions, and 9 of them are actually correct, or at least semi-correct. Let's take a look at the leak below. 2022, release of second Sonic movie. Correct. Release of Sonic Prime on Netflix and release of Sonic Frontiers game. Also correct. 2023, release of new 2D game currently being developed by B-Team. Correct. A new 2D game released in 2023 by the name of Sonic Superstars. Release of Sonic the Hedgehog live action series on Paramount+. This is one of the 2 pre-2025 predictions that was actually wrong. They're referring to the Knuckles show, which released in 2024, not 2023. Which, Jada note, the Knuckles show infamously got super delayed from the writers and actors strike that happened at that time, with them eventually being forced to move filming to the UK. So it actually makes sense that at the time it would be slated for 2023, as there's no way anyone could have predicted both a writers and actors strike to happen at the same time. But back to the list. DLC for Sonic Frontiers. Correct. The final DLC for Sonic Frontiers, titled The Final Horizon, released in 2023. Renew Sonic Prime for second season. Now, I'm not sure when it was renewed, but a second season did release that year. Mario and Sonic Paris 2024 game. This is the second
second one that's actually incorrect. Not only did no Mario and Sonic Olympics game release in 2024, but it was also confirmed that the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series is finished and they aren't going to make any more. 2024, release of third Sonic movie. Correct! New traditional 3D Sonic game. Now, this one is debatable, but I'd argue it's correct, because Sonic Generations is what people would call a traditional 3D Sonic game, and Shadow Generations use the same gameplay formula. So if Sonic Generations is traditional, so is Shadow Generations. Spin-off game from Outside Studio. Correct! Sonic Rumble is a spin-off game that released in 2024, which was, to my knowledge, made by an outside studio.
Which, this one's kind of a gray area, because it was made by Rovio, who at the time was an outside studio, but Sega has since then acquired Rovio. So now it's technically an internal studio. It's kind of just a gray area. So I'll give them that one on it being an outside studio. Now, the rest of the leak is from 2025 to 2027, so we are yet to know if it's true, but it goes as follows. 2025 to 2026, the Sonic 35th Anniversary Celebration and Sonic Hero Remake. 2027, Sonic Adventure 3. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not sure if this leak is actually a true leak or a string of good guesses. I just noticed that mostly everything was correct and wanted to point that out to this sub. You could argue that this person is not a credible leaker, and rather someone making conservative guesses and speculating on already established by February 2022 information. That's up to you guys what you think. I'm just here to present the facts that even if this leaker is a liar, the leak sure is a good coincidence. Now, as for the leaks that we don't have an answer to yet, obviously Sega will celebrate Sonic's 35th anniversary. That's a no-brainer. However, for the big leaks about the Sonic Adventure series, I guess we'll have to see. I don't see a Sonic Adventure 3 happening, but maybe there will be a similar game with a different title, like Sonic Horizon or whatever with similar gameplay. IDK, I'm not a leaker. But as for a remake of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, I wouldn't count those out yet. The main reason I think it's possible is because of how easy it would be to remake with the recent release of Sonic X Shadow Generations. Now Sega can use assets from Sonic X Shadow, of Sonic, Shadow, Tails, Knuckles, Eggman, Rouge, the Chaos, Bio Lizard, Space Colony, Arc, Perfect Chaos, City Escape, etc. for remakes of the Sonic Adventure games if they really wanted. Seems like an easy way to get fan goodwill by remaking the fan favorite games just using assets from the game that already released this year. But IDK, I'm just guessing. What do you guys think? And I find this all very fascinating, since we're still years away from this next mainline title, which it's pretty well established will somehow tie into the adventure format. However, if they knock the Sonic Heroes / Adventure Remake out of the park, I don't care for the extra 2-year wait and think that sounds completely reasonable. Also, while Adventure would make more financial success, my personal bet is it's going to be a Heroes remake, but not like a one-to-one remake. It will be Heroes styled, but also elements of originality. But with the 2-year wait that comes from a remake, it will once again be a 5-year gap in mainline Sonic games. But if they truly pull off something in the adventure format and just nail this game, something they showed was possible with how surprisingly good Shadow Generations was, then I think Sonic Team has finally proved they are up and running enough to meet the high expectations that would come from a game with the adventure title. And how a Sonic Heroes remake in Unreal Engine 5 plays will be a huge testimony to what we can expect in that next mainline title. I think Sonic Heroes is actually a really great game, and if they can address the concerns a lot of fans have about how the original controls, this could be a truly amazing title to add to the collection of Sonic games, which has a lot of great remasters / ports and some awful ones. But outside the classic titles, we've never had an actual remake of a Sonic game, so how they approach Heroes could only be speculated on for now, and there have been a lot of layoffs in the gaming industry, so the release date very well may have been pushed to 2026, but I'm still crossing my fingers for a release in 2025. And if you want to see more of my base coverage as time goes on, drop a like, double check you are still subscribed to the most swagged out source of Sonic news, and notifications on since I don't upload that often, so you won't want to miss some major Sonic news. And I cover the leaks and stuff that you have to research, and other people, even when they do find it, are kind of scared to have Sega mad at them. Something that I understand. I mean, I am blacklisted. So notifications on so you don't miss those. I have an Instagram where I vow to make at least one story every single day of my existence, so go follow and peep those in the description. My Discord is super pog, and you're just a dang fool if you're not a member and don't send a funny joke in the general, as well as missing the customs Fortnite games. You're a danged fool. New video soon. We're on a roll, baby. The road to 200K is approaching fast, and truly, lots of love for your support. And peace. Peace!